James Spencer is a North Africa and Middle East political and defence analyst, joins us live from London. Let's start with the latest developments out of Libya first. We're seeing a stiff battle for cert right now, but the opposition forces have nonetheless made some astonishing progress in the last few days. Do you think these are genuine military gains, or is it perhaps a trap that's being set up by Gaddafi?
I'd be very surprised if it was a deliberate trap. I think what you're seeing is a combination both of Allied or NATO firepower from the air destroying the main armoured vehicles that are in an area which the Gaddafi forces are not terribly popular. A combination of that and then withdrawing from that and falling back into their main defensive areas. Sirte obviously being the Gaddafi tribe's sort of home base and Gaddafi's hometown is a main area for defence. But
if they're giving up territory so easily, what does that say about how committed these troops are to Gaddafi? I mean, does he still have a tight grip on his forces?
There have been some signs of breakdowns of law and order. The rape over the weekend of the Libyan woman suggests that there are some breakdowns of law and order. But no, probably what they're doing is allowing the National Council to extend their lines of communication and quite possibly to overextend. If they're drawn out and then are unable to resupply themselves, then they will weaken themselves equally.
All right. Now, NATO, of course, now taking over this operation. Do you think that these opposition forces can do without support from the ground? Can they do with just the international air power that's been the case in the last few weeks, or can they do it without the support?
It very much depends on what you mean by doing it. Sarah Palin was very clear what it meant. Whether the UNSCR permits that is moot. Lawyers will argue about all sorts of things, but I would have said that the NATO intention is probably to even the odds up by destroying armoured vehicles, particularly that are out in the field. They've effectively destroyed Gaddafi's air force.
But the end goal is still to remove Gaddafi from power, isn't it?
That's not what the United Nations Security Council resolution says. That's not within NATO's purview.
Right.
And if you listen very carefully, the Secretary General of NATO has been very clear that it's to protect the civilians against Gaddafi attacks.
Now,
sorry.
I'll just go on. I was going to ask you about that particular issue of protecting civilians. Once they achieve that, once the rebels achieve their aim of pushing over Gaddafi, what do you think is going to happen after that? I mean, NATO's talking about a 3-month operation right now, but could it last longer than that, in your opinion?
There are several issues. I mean, one of the things is whether the armoured element goes back into the barracks. To my mind, any armoured artillery piece or fighting vehicle that's in the field with live ammunition is a threat to civilians. We do not have them in the West aimed against our civilian population, full stop. So in answer to the suggestion that this is somehow going beyond the rules of engagement, no. If the rebels are able to overthrow Gaddafi, then I think we're into a whole new ballgame. And again, the NATO statement was very clear. It's to protect UN security. Wrong. It's to protect Libyan civilians from pro-Gaddafi forces. That sounds to me like NATO putting a line in the sand, saying we are not going to get involved in another civil war. Whether they will enable the opposition to destroy Gaddafi and to quite literally decapitate the state, I don't know, but there are signs and some approving murmurs of African Union efforts and also others, possibly the Turks, talking. It's a political problem ultimately internally to Libya, and it will need a political solution.
Okay,
obviously,
thank you very much.
The best solution is for Gaddafi to go peacefully.
Okay, thank you very much for your time. James Spencer joining us there live from London. Thank you.